Scorpio, welcome to January and welcome to 2018. This is Gwendolyn, and I'm so sorry about last month. I don't know what happened to your guys' video, but it was missing. And so I'm doing you first this year. Actually, it's really funny. I was just shuffling the cards and I saw this full moon card, which is January 1st. There's a full moon and it's in Cancer, your 9th house of higher learning and spirituality and travel, exploration, other philosophies, other cultures. And this full moon on the new year is part of a grand trine in water, Scorpio. So you have Jupiter in your sign all year until November, until your birthday month. And so that's creating a lot of expansion in terms of your identity and yourself. It's a wonderful year to grow, to do some personal growth, to do some expansion in the definitions of who you are. And this grand trine with Jupiter in your house, the first house of identity, and then you've got a full moon in your 5th house of, in your 9th house of travel, of spirituality, of religion, of higher learning. It's sort of like taking you to that next octave, taking you to that next level. And then you also have Neptune in Pisces, which is your 5th house of true love, of romance. So it's got this really dreamy quality. Neptune has this dreamy quality all by itself. It's the natural ruler of Pisces. And with that hanging out in your 5th house, it can be a real time of romanticism, of poetry, and with that moon in Cancer, that's another water sign. So there's all 3 water signs are connected in this grand trine. So this is going to be a really dreamy full moon that we open the year with. And I think, you know, it may set the tone for the whole year. So it's a really great time, Scorpio, to focus on not only your identity and your growth and yourself, but also how that affects your relationships, your romance, your love, and also your spiritual learning, spiritual knowledge, higher learning, expansion. Really a year of expansion for you, Scorpio. So I'm starting this year with you. And so that's what's going to be happening on the 1st, this romantic, dreamy, emotional moon. And you guys can handle emotional things. You're one of the deepest emotional signs. You're Scorpio. You can handle the deep waters. I'm getting some cards flipping out as I'm talking about that. First one I see is Hierophant, which has to do with marriage, again, or higher learning, spirituality. This is very much a card that reflects the 9th house in many ways, about going to the next level. Page of Pentacles, Page of Coins means being willing to do the work, signing up, showing up, and being willing to be like a diligent student. So student of spirituality potentially this year. Reflecting on things is what both of these cards are about. Hangman and 4 of Swords means seeing things from a different perspective, taking a time out, some R&R. Really good year for reflection and doing internal work. So that's what I'm getting with that. And then on January 16th, we have a new moon in Capricorn. For you, this is happening in your 3rd house of communication, which means new moons are times when new things begin. New seeds can be planted. We take on new ways of doing things. So there may be a new way of communicating that happens for you in the world. It can be as literal as learning a new language, a new foreign language, which also would tie in nicely with your 9th house, you know, if you're going to France to learn French, etc. Or it could just be a new way of communicating in general. So, you know, speaking differently, letting your new words reflect your, sorry about the motorcycles, new words reflecting new thoughts. And Capricorn represents something that is steady and stable and goes to new heights. So through your language, you may be communicating higher thoughts, higher how you're thinking. Third house is usually Gemini, which has to do with communication, but it's also an air sign, which has to do with thoughts and communicating those thoughts. So it's, you know, an intelligence, so communicating of intelligence and ideas. And with that, I'm getting, you know, some of you may just be getting a new vernacular, learning new lingo within your field, or it's just new language is really what I'm getting, and new communication. So that's on the 16th. Great time to begin that. And then we also have a second full moon this month at the end of the month on the 31st. That will be what's called a blue moon, because whenever you get two full moons in the same month, the second one is considered a blue moon. So let's see what's coming up for you, Scorpio, for January. Again, I just wanted to do you first, since you didn't get a December reading. And I think this is, you know, with Jupiter hanging out in Scorpio, I think it's very appropriate that this is this year is going to be a focus on you, Scorpio. So let's start it. Let's see, we've got you opening the month with a little bit of indecision, perhaps. Or, you know, on the high side, sometimes this card can mean just feeling static, feeling stable, experiencing peace. It's really interesting, new opportunity here with this new moon. I'm really getting that this moon is reflecting this new opportunity. Aces are always new beginnings, and Fool means taking the leap, having the faith to go after what it is that you want to go after, means trusting in the universe. But with all of these in reverse, and with the Two of Swords here, I'm kind of getting that you may be checked out a little bit of your own head. You may be tied between two ideas or two thoughts that's keeping you static. Like, I want security, but I also want freedom. I want to go left, but I also want to go right. I don't know which way to go, therefore I'm just going to stay right where I'm at. Meanwhile, all this emotional stuff is coming up for you. All this watery energy. I sometimes read this lobster here as either Scorpio or Cancer, and both of them are involved here. And this is a Pisces card, so this is very much representing that full moon in water in Cancer, but in the grand water trine. That it's coming up for you, but you may not want to be dealing with it, because what it may be bringing up to the surface is dreams of new visions, new potentials. And it's like a gift that the universe is giving you, Scorpio. It's like a new you. Again, that Fool is the beginning of the tarot. It's the Fool's journey, you know, when he heads out. So in some ways, you know this new you is coming about, but you may be afraid of redefining yourself, and that's where this energy is coming into play. So this new year is really offering you a new version of yourself, but you may be resisting it with all your might. You may be saying, no, I'm happy with who I am right now. I don't want anything to change. I just want everything to maintain the status quo. That's what Two of Swords on the low side can mean, just checking out, being indecisive, being stagnant, you know, or in stasis on the way to stagnation. So I'm going to encourage you, Scorpio, with this full moon, open up to that deep emotional side of yourself. It's going to give you a breath of fresh air, a new sense of adventure. A new life is being handed to you. And that's what this new portal represents with the Ace of Coins. It's a new life. It's really a gift, Scorpio. Let whatever this is bubble to the surface. There's deep parts of you that want to come up for air, and it will actually take you forward to your new path. The Fool and the Moon really do have to do with going forward into a new path that is rooted and connected with our emotional truths and what we believe. So receive that gift, Scorpio, all here at the beginning of 2018 for you, and this is your year. So embrace it. You're also getting High Priestess, another major arcana. These three are all major arcana, so major themes. And this tells me that you know deep down inside what's going on. You know what this is about. You have a deep knowing of where you're headed and where you're going. It's just that you may have some fear, you may have some indecision about it, but it's almost like an internal knowing that's coming up from the depths if you don't resist it. Another major arcana, Devil. So, and you know, what's interesting, what's similar about High Priestess and Devil is they're both connected to the underworld, which is, you know, you can handle that, Scorpio. You are ruled by Pluto, which is the Lord of the underworld. You are the most comfortable with things that are under the surface, hidden, taboo, you know, deep psychology stuff. For some of you, this may be some deep-seated psychological issue that's coming to the surface for healing. For some of you, it may be access to hidden things, secrets, mysteries, new information. Both of, you know, with these together, actually, Devil, who can be personified by Hades, the Lord of the Underworld, your ruler, and High Priestess, who can be personified by Persephone, were married. So this was the husband and she was the wife, only 6 months out of the year. And then when she came to the surface in the archetypal tale, that was when everything bloomed, when we got spring and summer, and she was down in the depths for 6 months of the year. So what I'm really getting for the opening of this year for you, Scorpio, is that there may be some deep internal work to be done so that when spring hits and when summer hits, everything becomes glorious because you've done this deep work. This is like discovering hidden layers of yourself. This is like uncovering secrets and mysteries, things that may surprise you, things that may delight you, things that you may be passionate about and you just have a deep knowing about. For some of you, it's going to be releasing addictions. Sometimes Devil shows up, especially with Moon in reverse in the same line, having to do with addictive things, believing in illusions. She knows, High Priestess knows the truth. And she may be confronting this devil energy and saying, you know what? I'm alive. I don't need to live in the underworld all the time. I don't need to be asleep, which is what both of these cards also talk about. So lots of heavy, interesting stuff going on. Another major arcana. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 of your 7 cards so far, Scorpio. So heavy duty. But you guys can handle heavy duty. You are almost the definition of heavy duty. I mean, Scorpio is the sign of the depths. Justice in reverse tells me that there's something that you need to put right. And I'm seeing it as connected to Fool. There's some part of you that you're going to need to let out, to liberate, and to have some sort of freedom in order to experience this balance, this verdict, this is your teacher, by the way. This is Libra, which is the sign that follows Scorpio. Sorry, wrong. You are the teacher to Libra. So there's something about learning a lesson or conveying something about the truth, because justice usually has to do with rendering a verdict that defines the truth, that considers evidence and makes a decision. This is a very different card from this card, for example. This is 2 of Swords, 2 competing truths. This is 1 truth. I've weighed the evidence, is what justice says, and I've come to 1 decision. So with this in reverse, this reiterates for me that you're having a hard time making a decision going forward about 2 apparently conflicting things. And with this Ace energy and Fool energy, it tells me you know that which one is the right answer. You just don't want to. You have some fear, doubt, or resistance towards admitting to yourself what is the real truth. And that may be, you know, supported by these cards here, which High Priestess has the deep inner knowing, which tells me you know the answer. Devil says, though, I'm comfortable believing the lie. I'm comfortable, you know, smoking cigarettes and drinking and binge eating and being obsessive and taking the drugs and gambling and whatever your vice or thing that you turn your power over to. You know, it's almost saying like I'm comfortable believing the lie. I'm comfortable with the false prophet. I don't necessarily need the truth. Be careful about that, Scorpio. That's going to be your challenge for January, because there's this great freedom. and great new beginning, new life, new definition, new you, new lifestyle, you know, new garden that's being sort of put at your feet in January. But some of you may be too comfortable with what's going on already, that you know, you'd rather keep the fear of the new emergence at bay. I'm not sure, but there's lots of, and there may be something like, I'm fearful about confronting this. I don't need to make a decision about it. But you know what the right answer is, Scorpio. You know what this is about. That's all I'm going to say. There may be a Capricorn, Taurus, or Virgo that is involved with this. I'm seeing this new life is being ushered in, almost being given birth to by this Queen of Coins, because this is where the coin begins, and she is towards the end of the journey with the coins. So if some of you have an earth sign mother, sister, aunt, a good friend, someone who's involved, she's going to help you turn this upside down and help you sort of midwife through it, because she's very comfortable with earth energy, with getting grounded, with being nurturing. She has the wisdom of how to negotiate this new terrain, because she's the queen of land, queen of earth, queen of Terra. For some of you too, I'm getting that name, Terra, whoever that might speak to. Then, see what's coming towards the end of the month. We have Hermit in reverse. This may be something that you feel like you have to go through on your own. All of these are very isolated cards, and I'm seeing this specifically around that new moon in on the 16th. It may be that you're trying to discover the words to communicate what's going on with you internally, Scorpio, because Hermit in reverse is a very internal, reflective, looking for the truth kind of card. High Priestess has the truth, but she's usually mute. She doesn't usually speak. She's usually more about listening. And Two of Swords is, again, about, it's kind of like an internal card where I'm just trying to think things over. I'm just trying to decide whether I want to go left or right, which course of action to take. Therefore, I'm checking out. So all of these cards are about inaction. So I'm seeing, especially around the new moon, you may be just trying to formulate the new words or the new language to communicate what is going on internally and especially emotionally. You may not be ready to take action on it this month, but it may be something that is coming up for you this month. Yeah. Eight of Swords means feeling powerless. It's no coincidence to me that these two cards are face to face. This is usually the victim of this Devil card, but in reality, what it's about is that it's us giving our power away to something else. There's no one else in this card. It's not like the Devil is in this card with this person. This is Eight of Swords, where her thoughts and ideas bind her up. So it's really going to be about taking your power back this month by confronting what it is that keeps you stuck. Looking at the depths of, why do I do such and such? Why do I believe such and such that is always tripping me up? Why do I believe anything that holds you back or limits you? Or it's sort of like that, there's like a parable of walking down a road and falling into the manhole. And then the next time you go down that road, you see the manhole, but you still fall into it. That's kind of like what Devil energy is about. It's like, you know what your addictions are, but you still are chained to them. This card, and eventually in that parable, you see the manhole, you walk around it, and then you see the manhole, and then you decide to not walk down that street anymore. That's recovery from any sort of addictive, obsessive, giving your power away kind of behavior. With this card, it's saying that you may be coming out of feelings of hopelessness, powerlessness, seeing that you are the one who's not captive, but you are the one who can just walk out of this. You are the one who has the choice and the power in the situation. It really echoes this card a lot, where they're both blindfolded. This one is about trying to decide between one thing or another, feeling stuck. They both feel stuck. But this one is really about a whole mindset that is surrounding her, that's keeping her stuck. So belief in false ideas, false beliefs, false thoughts is what happens when we succumb to fears or false beliefs here. The moon, the devil, and Eight of Swords are very interesting in terms of being similar in that the moon is about, it can be about illusion, believing things that are not permanent, things that are changeable, things that are illusory. Devil is believing in something that's not true, believing in something that forces us to give our power away to it. It makes all kinds of promises, and then when we sign on the dotted line, it takes it all away. So this tells me, with Eight of Swords in reverse, that if you do some real soul searching, which is some of what this is about, these cards are about the truth versus some falseness or falsity, that you bring yourself to a place where you realize, okay, I can take off this blindfold. I can walk out of these thoughts that are limiting me. And it may be, Scorpio, that you have to get to that place in your mind before any sort of action or action happens. I see you needing to kind of get right in your mind before you're going to be able to take this leap. And before you're able to receive this new life, this new gift of yourself that the world is trying to give to you. It's really going to be a mental game, emotional and mental game this month. It's really about looking deeper, identifying and knowing the truth, and seeing what truths you've been believing in that are keeping you stuck, making you feel powerless, making you feel captive, giving your power away to this other thing. It's almost like identifying what you're fearing. It's very interesting, Scorpio. You got some very interesting themes here that it's almost like an internal battle, but it's what I'm really seeing it as is an internal birth for you as you identify truths that, you know, what is it that I'm believing that's false, that keeps me kept in the clutches of this? In most cards, like in the Rider-Waite for Devil, there's chains around the Devil's victims, but those chains are loose enough where they can take them off themselves. They stay there voluntarily. Let's see what the last couple cards are. Okay, potential new love, Page of Cups. Feeling young at heart again. There's something about, interesting, I'm seeing maybe even childhood themes, where you had to stand up for yourself, you had to be the survivor. There's some way, Scorpio, that I'm seeing, in some way you had to be a survivor in childhood, and this is what's coming up this month, because I'm seeing it as a deep, emotional thing that wants to come out and play, wants to be a gift, but you kind of have to grapple with the binds that you've grown accustomed to and saying, you know, I like my creature comforts. I like this gilded cage. There's interesting stuff going on here, Scorpio. It's pretty deep. But it's very poetic this month in terms of all the water energy, emotional energy. You have a deep knowing about it already. You're searching for the truth. It's coming up to the surface even if you don't want it to. This new beginning and this new chapter, it's all about this full moon. And you're like, no, I don't want to look at this. I'd rather just stay where I'm at, is what I'm seeing with this. But it's coming up for release. Full moons are also times of completion. It's sort of like saying whatever happened all throughout last year or began 6 months ago, if you look back to, say, your birthday month, even further back to the summer, whatever began then is over. And it's time to release that. Heavy duty stuff, Scorpio. I'm not sure what else to tell you other than trust the young side of your heart. Go back to childhood. There's going to be answers there. And there's going to be things that if you confront those thoughts, those old deep-seated buried emotions, you can get great freedom and liberation. in January. And this may be a process that you're just beginning in January, and it may last through the whole year. This may be what Jupiter in Scorpio is doing for you this year, where it's expanding your sense of self. It almost reminds me of like a tree that if metal rings were put around it while it was young, it grew around those rings, and it had to adapt, and it almost like had this binding to it where it still grew, but it was restricted in a certain way. And this year is allowing you to cut those binds, if you can, that allow you to grow in a very full way. So whatever thoughts, beliefs, and ideas led you to conclusions that may not be real, you have an opportunity to challenge those this month, because you know on some level that that's not real, and that you're searching for the truth. You're searching for what will release you, make you feel like you don't always have to like be a survivor and a defender and looking over your shoulder. You know, go back to the heart of being a child. And, you know, Fool's about innocence too. And that's going to help you see where you may have adopted certain verdicts or beliefs based on childish thinking, or things that happened when you were a child. So you had to make that determination at the time. But if you turn these around, justice is not based on the thinking of Fool. It's not based on the thinking of the young Scorpio here either. You know, the adolescent. It's based upon evidence and weighing what's true and what's not true. So it's almost like saying the adult knows and has decided what's real, not the kids. Not the children. They didn't have the expansion of vision. They didn't have the experience. They didn't have the full picture, where justice has the full picture. And there's things from the depths, seeing this both with Devil and with the Moon, coming up to the surface for greater healing and taking you forward into your next self-identity, if you are willing to question the comfort, or maybe even the work that you've had to do through your life to grow around those, say, metal rings or limitations. It may be comfortable, but it's going to release you. If you look for the truth, it's going to release you into a greater sense of freedom, and that's what this Fool is about. Renewed life, renewed energy. It's feeling like you're taking a breath of fresh air, receiving this coin, this new life, this new garden that the world is trying to birth to you with this full moon in Cancer, January 1st. This is your theme for the whole year, Scorpio. So I personally like it, because I know you Scorpios can handle it. It's just like almost stirring up the muck, going through that mud and heading to the surface. Reminds me of the story of a lotus, where they grow in mud and then they hit the surface of the water, and that's where they bloom. It's enlightenment. That's what's going on for you. It's a heavy duty thing, but you're ready for it. It's like you've been priming for this. For some of you, you're going to have fear, doubt, or resistance that you may need to clear away, but you know the monkey on your back. Now, whether that's a mental thing, a physical thing, an emotional thing, or a spiritual thing, it's a limitation, and it's keeping you stuck. And you have the opportunity to clear some of that away and have new healing, new fresh life. So I'm excited for you, Scorpio. It looks heavy duty, but I know you guys are up to it. So that's my reading for you for January. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to put those below. I hope all of you have a beautiful, expansive 2018, and I will be back next month for your February reading. Happy New Year, everyone, and I'll talk with you soon. As always, yours in the stars.